Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. To get the most out of this video, listen to the intro so that you know what's going to affect you and when it's going to happen in the week ahead. Lastly, use the timestamps in the description to go to your rising sign, sun sign and moon sign in order to learn how things will affect you personally. I'd like to point out that this will be a general read. We're looking at the general influence of the stars upon our life. If you would like to know something more specific about your life and how the stars are specifically interacting with you, I would suggest getting a reading with a professional astrologer. You can do so with me through the link in the description below if you would like. I'd like to give a special welcome to anyone who is new to astrology. You're so welcome here at this channel. If you would like to learn to read your own astrology chart, I offer a short course. It's very cheap and it's lots of fun. The link is in the description below. To all of my friends who join me here each week, who like and share my videos and subscribe to my channel, I do love you. To my gold and silver and bronze star family members, I do pray for you every day. I thank the universe for your presence in my life. If anyone would like to join the Guiding Star family, the link is also in the description below. And now to this week's spotlight. Happy birthday! Did you know you can get a full year ahead reading with me, with all the astrological bells and whistles, including what to expect in the year ahead and key dates to look out for? We look at perfections, transits, dashes, eclipses, your solar return chart, and the progress chart. It's the best gift you can give yourself for your birthday. Book now at the website. And happy birthday! Well, hello everyone, I'm Kesenya and welcome to our discussion of the full moon in Sagittarius, the lunar eclipse for the 26th of May. And if you're interested in knowing when this eclipse is occurring for you in your part of the world, then check out the description box below where I go into great detail all about this. I'm going to do a few things in this video. For my YouTube followers who are watching this video, we're going to break down the chart of this eclipse and what it looks like and what its effects are. And then for my Patreons who are going to get the full version of this video, we're going to be looking at the right energy space for this particular eclipse. We're going to look at the effects of a full moon in Sagittarius, what they're all about, and we're going to break it down. What does this eclipse mean for all signs? So stick with me if you're a Patreon for the full version. If you'd like to be a Patreon, all you need to do is go to the link in the description below, join the Guiding Star family, and you can have access to these reports each month, the full version. Okay, so the eclipse, how is it going to work? Well, basically an eclipse occurs when we have, in this case, a lunar eclipse is a full moon between the sun and the moon, falling in a close proximity to the nodes of the moon. In this case, the sun is within 5 degrees of the north node of the moon, and the moon will be within 5 degrees of the south node of the moon. The nodes are at 10 degrees of Sagittarius, Gemini. The sun will be at 5 degrees and the moon will be at 5 degrees when it forms the full moon effect. This eclipse is going to be visible to people who are residing in most parts of Asia, Australasia, the Pacific, and the west coast of the Americas. So it will be active and visible for about 5 hours, and most people in those parts of the world are going to be able to see this eclipse. It is going to be very visible across a broad part of the world. So it's a lunar eclipse, a full moon eclipse. What's that all about? Well, lunar eclipses trigger events usually within a week, either side of the occurrence of the full moon. So you may already be noticing some effects. You might already be feeling into this eclipse energy. You might be, feeling a bit more heightened, a bit more sensitive. You might be seeing things unfold in your life that are sudden, unexpected, and out of the blue that you didn't think would ever occur. So we can get sort of some sudden upheavals, for good or bad, that are occurring the week before, now, or the week after this eclipse occurs. With a solar eclipse, which is a new moon eclipse, we tend to see the effects play out over a 6-month period. Lunar eclipses are more quick to have their fruition. Lunar eclipses tend to affect the masses, and that's because it's the moon that's being most affected in this eclipse. The moon is being eclipsed by the shadow of the earth, and the moon represents the masses or the general public, whereas the sun represents the solar energy, the king, the ruler, the leader, the celebrity, sun energy. And when the sun is being eclipsed by the shadow of the moon, then it affects, in a new moon eclipse, then it affects those solar people in the world. So we can expect that this eclipse is going to have its bearings upon the masses, which is most of us, let's face it. A lunar eclipse, as I said in my recent video with Joanna from Guiding Star, my wonderful fellow colleague at Guiding Star Astrology, change happens in our personal lives from the inside out. And so that's the effect of a lunar eclipse. Rather than a new moon eclipse, a solar eclipse where the change is external that then affects our lives, this is a situation where our energy shifts, our perception of the world changes, and therefore what we experience in our world alters as well. Of course, it's a full moon, so we're going to be feeling a lot more emotional than we usually would. That's to be expected, and it is an energy, as with a full moon in any month, but on steroids now with this eclipse occurring, it's an energy of endings. Like the moon has reached its fullness. It's not going to get any bigger than this, and then it will start to wane. So it's the full fruit of something, and often that means an ending. When something is at its peak, it's not going to get any better. It's not going to increase anymore. It's reached its full capacity, and that's the kind of thing we're looking at with the eclipse and what it will bring in our life. Something is reaching its full capacity, or in many cases, its conclusion. Another thing we see with lunar eclipses is that people's true nature is often revealed, the true character of a person. You might have thought you know somebody, maybe a boss or a colleague or a friend or a lover, and you might have thought, yeah, I've got them figured out. And then along comes the eclipse and they do something and your perception of them completely changes. The truth is revealed about them. So sometimes our illusions can be shattered. Don't be surprised to see that occurring. Now, let's take a look at the chart of this eclipse. As you can see, here's the full moon, but these guys are forming quite a close square aspect to Jupiter. Jupiter's at around 0 degrees of Pisces, and the eclipse is occurring at 5 degrees of Gemini, Sagittarius. Of course, these are all mutable signs. In evolutionary astrology, this is known as a skipped step, and if you have a skipped step in your natal chart, there are certain connotations about what that means. But in a transiting situation like this, it means you're going to have to deal with maybe some issue that might be quite karmic or might have happened earlier in life that is not necessarily something that is ingrained in your psyche that you are having to grapple with throughout the entirety of this lifetime, but rather it might be something that bubbles up from the past, you deal with it, you sweep it aside and get on with your life. It's much more transient. Because this is a transiting skip step and not a natal one in a natal chart. So because Jupiter is playing into this eclipse so strongly, people who have a natal skip step in their chart will feel this energy. There will be a reiteration of those Jupiter skip step themes. I'll talk about what they are in just a second. But anyone who is ruled by Jupiter, so anyone who has a Pisces rising sun or moon or a Sagittarius rising sun or moon, then this is going to be felt by you as well, the energy of this skip step momentum. Plus, Jupiter is also the dispositor of this eclipse because it's falling in Jupiter's sign, Sagittarius. So it's a very strong Jupiterian influence on this eclipse, which I feel, even though it's making a square aspect, considered to be a hard aspect, it's still going to be for positive. Even hard aspects from Jupiter can give good results. So the emphasis of this skipped step and this Jupiterian influence has to do with a need to attain meaningful success in the world. to be appreciated for that meaningful success. And this is going to require a risk or a leap of faith to be taken, particularly by people who are Jupiterian, to take a risk, to do something, to get out of their comfort zone in order to generate the success that they desire in the world. So you might be called upon by the universe to take that leap of faith with this eclipse energy. Now, I spoke about this extensively when I was talking with Joanna in my recent video, but I wanted to recover it again. So do check out that video with Joanna. I'm recovering a lot of ground here, but we are going to move into new territory when we start discussing the full moon, the energy space, and the breakdown for each sign. If you're a Jupiterian person or someone governed by Jupiter in any way, you might have been working towards creating meaningful success in your life for, I don't know, could have been years, it might have been months, whatever. But if you've been working towards some sort of substance and meaningful success in the world, this Jupiter skip step on the eclipse could propel you forward exponentially now. You might find that suddenly you get a rocket launch into an opportunity, into a success, into prosperity, into expansion, all those things that Jupiter governs that bring about more meaningful success for you in your life. And you might like to ask yourself, if you are a Jupiterian person, what is meaningful success to you? For some people, meaningful success is being loved and giving love. For other people, meaningful success is having financial security and safety. For other people, meaningful success might be having a great family that loves each other. What is meaningful success to you? You might like to sort of analyze what that is for you and then watch how this eclipse plays out in that realm. Some more information about this particular eclipse is that it is conjunct with 2 royal stars. Woof, this is really actually very important. So we've got here the Sun in conjunction with Aldebaran. Let me try and lamely draw a star there. So here's the Sun in a conjunction with fixed star Aldebaran down here. What's Aldebaran all about? Let's look at that for a start. Well, it's a wealth star. And guess what? It carries the nature of Jupiter. Jupiter and Saturn, to be precise. And when Jupiter and Saturn are together in a conjunction, it can give a lot of momentum. But this star Aldebaran has the character, the nature, the effects of a Jupiter-Saturn combination. Some sources say Jupiter-Mars is the combination for Aldebaran. It depends which ancient philosopher you want to sort of run with there. You can take either way, but Jupiter is predominant with Aldebaran. Aldebaran is also known as the Watcher of the East, one of the Watcher stars. 4 royal stars, and there's 2 of them involved in this eclipse. And it's connected, as the Watcher of the East, it's connected with the archangel Michael. So if you're in dire straits at all, around the time of this eclipse, you might like to reach out, if you're so inclined to do this sort of thing, to pray to Archangel Michael, as he's going to be very powerfully involved in this eclipse. In ancient Persia, in about 3000 BC, the star Aldebaran was known as the marker for the vernal equinox. So that's just a bit of history for those who want to know about that. And the name Aldebaran actually means the one who follows the Pleiades. And if you know anything about the astrology of the fixed stars, the Pleiades are located in tropical Taurus. And so as we're moving along, here comes Aldebaran, one of the major stars after the Pleiades constellation. When we have Aldebaran in a conjunction, in this case it's with the Sun, it's going to give great energy and perseverance. So we can expect that on this day we'll feel very energized and vital. There is a danger from quarrels and danger from legal quarrels especially that comes when the Sun is in a conjunction with Aldebaran. And there is also a possibility of fevers and disease that can come when Aldebaran is triggered by a conjunction with the Sun. So it all depends on your natal chart, how that star will be impacting you through this eclipse. So do check out your own chart. Now, the other star that's effective in this eclipse is the star Antares up here with the moon. Let me do another lame attempt at a star there. But this is Antares, and they sit opposite one another, Antares and Aldebaran. This is a leadership star considered to have the nature of Mars or Mars-Jupiter, depending again on which sources you're using for your information. It's known as the Watcher of the West. So we've got the Watcher of the East down here, the Watcher of the West up there, and it's connected with Archangel Uriel. So call out if you're having trouble to Ariel or Michael. They will be very active in their energy on this day. And it is the autumnal equinox marker for the ancient Persians in 3000 BC. So these stars are very significant. Along with Fomalhaut and Regulus, they form the markers of the equinoxes and solstices. When Antares sits with the moon, it can give a lot of popularity. It gives sort of a broad-minded perspective as well. And we might find that our curiosity about philosophy and science, metaphysics, and all those sort of higher level subjects is increased because of the conjunction of the moon with Antares. We might make new friendships that are very influential under this contact as well. So it's actually quite a good contact. So some positivity coming out of the conjunction of the moon in this eclipse configuration with Antares. Now, it's also very interesting to note that there will be 3 planets that are out of bounds on this day of the eclipse as well, the 26th of May, depending where you are in the world, of course. And this gives unexpected results. And this is Mercury, Venus, and Mars that are all going to be out of bounds. And they behave in a more extreme manner. So the energies of Mars, which can be anger, volatility, or that superhero courage that we love in Mars, that could be a bit out of control on this day. Imagine a superhero being out of control. Venus, our desire, our love for luxuries and pleasures of life, again, a bit out of control. Mercury, our communications and our speaking. How we think, being just somewhat a bit out of control as well. So it's going to be a mixed bag of lollies, this eclipse. There's a lot of good stuff going on, a lot of beautiful stuff happening, but a lot of energies that we're not used to. Like out of bounds planets are kind of more rare than common, and so we are not familiar with their energy, and they can give very surprising, unexpected results. I'd encourage you to look at the areas of your chart that are ruled by these planets, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, and get a feel for where you might be feeling a bit out of control or that things are a bit volatile. Just so you know, for those who are new to astrology, Venus rules Taurus and Libra. Mars rules in ancient astrology Scorpio and ancient astrology Scorpio and Aries. And Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini. So look at what realms of the chart they govern, and you'll notice that that's at least half of your chart for everybody on the planet is under that influence. You know, that's a good 6 houses for everybody. So we are going to be feeling a bit like something is, more amplified, more exciting, more bigger, better, or maybe even a bit more crazy and volatile than it might usually be. Now, in general, what are eclipses all about? I've talked about lunar eclipses. We've talked about the chart for this eclipse and the key configurations that are playing out. What about eclipses in general? Well, they are life's big events, especially if you've got a natal planet or even a progressed planet in your progressed chart in a conjunction with any of these points, 5 degrees of Gemini or Sagittarius, and you'd give it an orb for a conjunction of probably no more than I would give 5 degrees. Let's keep it tight to see the strongest effects. In general, eclipses are usually about something ending in order that something else can come in and begin. A couple of years ago, I had an eclipse in my 6th house on my 6th house Lord, and I lost my job, couldn't pay the bills. How was I going to pay the mortgage? Very 6th house energy. And lo and behold, it ushered in a period for me where I established my own business and started to be more autonomous in how I was earning money, paying the bills, and taking care of my family. So I was grateful for that eclipse, even though it caused a lot of upheaval at the time. But something certainly did end so that something more wonderful could begin for me. We can expect the unexpected with eclipses. We get random events that we didn't see coming and that we didn't expect, and we're pushed by these eclipse events to take a step further towards our destiny and our purpose in life. Now, if this eclipse happens to be falling on your sun, so if your sun is, basically at 5 degrees of Gemini or 5 degrees of Sagittarius, just know that you need to be very conscious of your health. Now, particularly if you're having your solar return chart, your birthday, in other words, this is a year where you're going to have to look after your health. Eat healthy, Be conscious of doing healthy activities. Don't sort of sit on the couch with, fish and chips and watch Netflix 24 hours a day. Like, be conscious of taking care of your well-being and your health if you're having a solar return under this eclipse. The energy of this eclipse is going to be with you for a full year because of that. Now, because the full moon eclipse connects to the ruler of the sign of Cancer, that means that Cancer people will feel this eclipse quite strongly. Fire signs may also feel this eclipse quite strongly. So if you have your rising, sun, moon, or first house lord in a fire sign, Sagittarius, Leo, or Aries, you too may feel this strongly. So I hope you can see how this is forming. A lot of people are going to be affected by this eclipse. If you're a Cancer person, because the moon rules you. If you're in a fire sign, because the eclipse is falling in a fire sign, you may be affected. If you're in a mutable sign, which is Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, or Pisces, you will also be affected. So a lot of people are going to be under the influence of this eclipse, and that is usually the case for every eclipse. But then you will sometimes get an effect of somebody not being affected by an eclipse at all, and you scratch your head and you wonder, what on earth, why did that not affect me? Why did nothing happen in my life? Well, in that case, maybe you were like a Scorpio strong person who was not under the influence of, say, an eclipse like this one, and therefore the eclipse did not impact you in any way. So you really need to know your own chart to know whether you're going to receive a big helping of eclipse energy or not. Now, one thing I want to talk about too is the final aspect that the moon is going to make as it leaves the sign of Sagittarius, which is very, very important, and gives us sort of information about how auspicious that this the effects of this eclipse might be. It's not a good eclipse for new ventures or new communications, I would say. And that's because the final aspect the moon is making is an opposition to Neptune. Sorry, not Neptune, Mercury down here. And it's an opposition. So oppositions are not so much, we don't see them in this type of astrology, we don't see them as being something that we should utilize. So if you have new ventures to begin, I'd give it time before you start something new under this eclipse. Wait until the moon is out of Sagittarius, because they mightn't amount to much if you try and start some new energy under this eclipse. Well, I'd like to say goodbye to our YouTube audience. Thank you for joining me for this brief analysis of the energy of the full moon in Sagittarius eclipse. My Patreon members are now going to enjoy the full moon analysis, how to create right energy space for this eclipse in their lives, and to create a breakdown for each sign. So stick with me, Patreon people, and thank you, my lovely YouTube followers. Mwah. Is that thing out there? Ugh. Another thing that we see with lunar eclipses is that stick around for the bloopers if there are some. I haven't sort of thought.